In this video, we're going to talk about how to solve two-step equations. And so we kind of can follow these few steps that I have here to help us with every single question. And step one is to isolate the variables to one side of the equation and the constants to the other. Okay, so isolate the variables to one side of the equation. So have x, or whatever variable you're using, on one side and have the constants to the other. We're going to simplify by combining like terms and then solve for the variable. Okay, so keeping these three steps in mind, let's try to solve these first two questions. Okay, so here I have 4x plus 3 equals 11. And before we do any sort of math, we kind of want to think about what this equation is trying to tell you. So it's saying 4 times a number plus 3 is going to give me 11. Okay? So how do I get from 3 to 11 if I'm adding? Okay, what number would I add to 3 to get to 11? Well, if you count, and you can use your fingers if you like, you'd get 8. If I add 3 to 8, I will get 11. So what that means is that this 4 times something, because remember, a number hugging next to a variable or next to a letter means we're multiplying. So 4 times a number is going to give me 8. And I haven't even actually done any steps yet, but I know exactly what the x is going to equal. So 4 times a number that's going to give me 8, I know that x is going to have to be 2. So let's see what happens when we follow the math portion. Okay? So step one is we want to isolate the variables to one side of the equation and the constants to the other. So 3 and 11 are both constants, but they're on different sides of the equal sign, which means I have to perform the opposite function to get them onto one side together. And I don't want to bring them all towards the left. So instead, I'm going to bring this 3 towards the right side. Okay? So to get rid of plus 3, I would have to subtract 3. And then what I do to one side, I would also have to do to the other side. Okay, so if I take away 3, these just cancel. And now I'm left with 4x equals 11 subtract 3, which is going to give me 8. So 4 times a number equals 8. So you kind of already know what that number is, but to get x by itself, I'd have to perform the opposite function. So here, the opposite of multiplying by 4 would be dividing by 4. So here I'm going to divide this whole thing by 4, which means I also have to divide this side by 4 to keep it balanced. So now I have x by itself, because these 4's cancel out. And if I go 8 divide 4, that gives me 2 as my final answer. Okay, and remember, when it comes to math, there's usually a way you can always check to make sure you did it correctly. So I recommend doing this every single time just to make sure. It may take you longer, but you're ensuring that you're getting the question correct. So if x equals 2, that means if I plugged 2 in to where x is in my original equation, so if I had 4 times 2 plus 3 equals 11, let's check if that's true. Okay, so BEDMAS says to do the multiplication first. So if I go 4 times 2, I know that equals 8. 8 plus 3 equals 11. So I know that 11 does equal 11. So then I know that my answer of x equals 2 is correct. Okay, let's try this next one here. So here we see that the variable is on the right-hand side, but on the previous one it was on the left. So again, we doesn't matter which side we choose, just choose the one that makes the most amount of sense. So right now, it would make sense just to leave the variable on this right-hand side and bring the two constants. So the constant, one is here, one is here. 5 and 15, these are my two constants. Okay, so I want to bring those together onto the same side of the equal sign. So to get rid of minus 5, I would have to plus 5. And then what I do to one side of the equal sign, I also have to do to the other. Okay, these will cancel out, which means I only have 2x left here. 15 plus 5 is going to give me 20. So now I'm left with 2 times a number equals 20. And so right now I'm multiplying x by 2 over here. So I want to get rid of that times 2. And the way we get rid of multiplication is to divide. So I'm just going to divide by 2. What I do to one side, I also have to do to the other. These 2's cancel. All that's left here is x. And 20 divided by 2 gives me 10. And then I have 10 as my final answer. Okay. And again, we can perform a check here just to make sure that we have the correct answer. So if I put 10 in where x was in my original equation, so my original equation was 15 equals 2 times x. So I'm going to put a 10 there instead and see if these two sides actually indeed equal each other. Okay. BEDMAS says to perform this multiplication first. So 2 times 10 is 20. Okay, and the rest can just come down. If I subtract 20 and 5, then I'm left with 15. And does 15 equal 15? Yes, it does. So then I know I did my answer correct here. Let's try some that are very similar but different. Okay. So here in letter C, it's saying that 2 times a number, subtract 5, is going to equal 17. Okay. So first thing I want to do is get my constants to the same side of the equal sign. So that's the 5 and the 17. So to get rid of the subtract 5, I will have to plus 5. So if I plus 5, what I do to one side of the equal sign, I have to do to the other. So now I'm left with 2x, because these two cancel out on this side. 17 plus 5 is going to give me 22. Now it's saying 2 times a number equals 22. And you might already know the answer right now, but we're going to keep going. So to get x by itself, I will need to divide by 2, because I'm multiplying here, which means I also have to divide by 2 on the other side. Okay, these 2's will cancel each other out. So I'm just left with x, and then 22 divided by 2 equals 11. And remember, you can check if you need to here. Last one. I have 3y plus 7 equals 25. So step 1 is to get my variables to one side and my constants to the other side of the equal sign. So to get rid of the plus 7 on this side, I will have to subtract 7. What I do to one side, I also do to the other. So I have to subtract 7 from 25. Here, I'm left with 3y, and then I have to subtract 25 and 7. So what that means is I'm left with 18. So right now on the left, I want y by itself still. A number touching a letter or a number touching a variable means I'm multiplying. So the opposite of multiplying is to divide. So I'm going to divide by 3. What I do to one side, I have to do to the other to maintain that balance, to keep them equal. These 3's will cancel out. I'm left with y on this side. 18 divided by 3, okay, equals 6. And then I'll get y equals 6 as my final answer.